Maha Chohan, guest speaker, Narayana and Divine Grace, the Elemental Grace Alliance Council, January 9th, 2016. Beloved spirits of immortal truth, I am the Maha Chohan, and I have come accompanied by my beloved Divine Consort Lady, Pallas Athena. I am the representative of the Holy Spirit Comfort Flame, and I am the overlighting Chohan of all 7 Chohans of the 7 rays. My qualities are power, love, wisdom, purity, healing, service, freedom, and many more. I am the overlighting director of the elemental kingdoms, and it is my authority that shines upon all manifestations in nature. I draw and supply the energy used in all nature and by mankind. I also magnetize the radiation and power from the solar sun, while I administer and service the various forms of culture and civilization through the minds of embodied individuals, so that they may unfold and develop according to God's divine plan. In all faith and trust, you can now begin to accept and understand that by my force field, my essence and pressure of radiation, being here to speak with you is my endorsement for this divine plan of the Elemental Grace Alliance equally. So why have I addressed you as beloved spirits of immortal truth? I address you thus because each one of you is a spirit of truth in essence, because only truth lives eternally, and the very fact that your presence in the universe has been guaranteed immortality signifies to life that you are a spirit of truth. That with which you have clothed this essence may be less than truth, but in a flash, in a flame of purification, the accretions of the ages become ash, and the divine image in which you were created from the bosom of the Eternal Father stands revealed. There has been great interest generated across the heavens of God's inexorable awareness to such a degree that as this alliance has progressed, there has been created yet another circle of light that is indeed formed concentrically around this beacon of light and its esteemed members, a circle of other divine representatives of God's grace and benevolence and oneness, that adore beloved humanity and their efforts within the Narayana journey of experience, where immortal men and women show their intended determination to evolve themselves into the higher realms of universal love, light, and the life of God. Such has been the growth of this most unpretentious endeavor, this simple down-to-earth human desire of one individual to make a difference, that the information gathered and presented has reached new levels of anticipated awareness, and thus warrants, no, demands, even more precise explanation and knowledge, so as not to see anything lost in translation, by anyone who truly sees the value of this single, yet multidimensional and multi-layered experience. So like my beloved brothers and sisters of light who have requested to come as guest speakers, I also wish to come forward before the close of those proceedings to bring another matter of significant importance forward, to assist anyone who may come into contact with these discourses, allowing them to make the most qualified choices possible appropriate for them. So I herewith bestow my admiration and gratitude for this Elemental Grace Alliance for creating such a new benchmark that warrants me to come and speak here within this gathering of such esteemed entities, a propitious opportunity indeed. I have therefore come today to bring a message of even more profound refinement, purification, and honing to the requirements needed in achieving, in the shortest time possible, the success of these proposals and work that are being outlined herein, especially with regard to that of the formation of your proposed Christ councils. Today I wish to speak of force fields, as I know them to be, and shall explain the meaning of such things, for these are not readily understood within the consciousness of humanity today, not to the levels we would desire at this summit within the Ascension program. The message of force fields has been shared with small selective groups which began back in the 1950s. Yet while all these groups were and remain vital to the progress of the evolution of the human race today, we are asking for an even greater commitment of the different sort. You see, dear ones, time changes everything, and therefore the nature of the demands we require of unascended humans, students, before they are given greater powers to work with. There must be yet greater ratified, gratified, and authorized advances within the covenants of their commitment and focused attention. It is all about the continuation of perfecting one's whole being, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Now, before we go any further, I wish to honor what beloved Helios brought to these discourses about the differences between teachers and educators. For this is also the next stage of development for these relationships to be both respected and honored. With regards to the perfecting of the words students, aspirants, chelas, etc., of any newly formed group, let us reevaluate such names. Students have now been explained and clarified by Helios. Chelas can be both seen as slaves and servants or disciples and pupils, depending on whether one comes from Sanskrit or Hindu background. And aspirants are really those who show the ambition in achieving something, not necessarily something spiritual in nature. So I am putting forward the name for these dear souls from this time forward. Let us call them disciples of the new golden age. Within this name, it is understood and acknowledged that they are academically endowed with the memory to remember their own individual connection with God, that they are willing and eager to research and rediscover that which they already are, as part of God's desire for them, and that they are and hold within themselves the God intelligence of unity consciousness, just waiting for self-realization for full expression. So from this time forward, we shall refer to these blessed souls as disciples of the new cosmic light, or the new seventh golden age. You see, dear souls, to become immortal, a Christed one, if you like, one has to take a completely different view upon life in relationship to the concept of being human. Within the immortal flame of life is the call, which must be answered by every deva, angel, and god. But mankind uses it not, and the priceless stream of electronic light flowing into it is spilled into imperfect living. There are many levels and stages to being human, and sooner or later one must come to the next ring path not, make new choices, and pass through, leaving everything of the old consciousness to dissolve away and return to the solar sun for repolarization. For those who have studied religious doctrine, you may have heard this saying, "Be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect." For if you do not, life will return you to your next incarnation, and then the next, and this rendition of one's individual consciousness again, and again will align to one's conscious beliefs of each previous lifetime, taking to the next embodiment only to continue where you left off. That is until you fulfill the supreme edict of life, that of ascension as a Christed soul. When the decree of the laws of life are obeyed, we shall find that the manifestations of the constructive, positive, beneficial, loving way of life will all become immortal. Beginning in 2016, the cosmic motion and the movement of Earth radiation and light began expanding toward new potentials within mankind. Many are already feeling the energies intensifying, and unless these radiation force fields are used in a constructive and benevolent way, the individual who applies them will only qualify them with his or her own feelings of anxiety, confusion, irritation, bitterness, resentment, anger, and the feelings of abandonment, protecting them against those around them in all situations and circumstances. This shall only continue to create human frustrations and chaos within their own mind and body, which constantly embeds them and others within the limitations of fear-based manifestation. During the present expansion of the light in, through, and around the earth, it is absolutely imperative now for those individuals ready to keep a more concentrated and focused control over their own thoughts, emotions, feelings, and spoken words, compelling them to be constructive, positive, beneficial, and functional, while giving recognition to nothing that is not of the greatest good of all concerned. If they are to avoid continual distress and countless loss to themselves and their world, they must elect to follow this path. At no time in the history of the planet has this been so important as it is at this present moment. The earth is passing through the throes of pangs, upheaval, and struggles of a new birthing process, and there will only be a few scant years ahead that earth and humanity will be in a very unique transitional period. Everything is changing now, entering into the new cosmic consciousness, a new cosmic way of evolution, from the attitude of war into that of peace, from hatred to love, from selfishness to selflessness, from greed to benefactor and philanthropist, and into the full recognition of a future where people must bring to bear their new cosmic force fields with love, wisdom, and power, exercising their strength, steadfastness, and all God-knowing, enough to live within the human biology in accordance to the law of divine love. The hour strikes in the evolution of every planet and its humanity when every human must express the full peace, harmony, perfection, and the divine plan of the system to which they belong. When that hour comes, humanity either moves forward and fulfills God's plan, or whatever portion will not come into alignment with the new activities has to remove itself to another universal schoolroom until those personalities learn the required obedience to the laws of life. The law of life is indeed heaven, God or Christ consciousness, where peace, harmony, and love to every living or created life form reign supreme. Even the ethers of infinite space express this harmony everywhere. Human beings are the only creators of hell within the universe. Now, here on earth, they can either accept and obey the law of life and enjoy every good thing of the Father and Mother's kingdom, or they can disobey that law and be snapped like a reed with the storms of their own making, all through their own self-generated misconceptions, misunderstanding, and discord. Each individual carries his or her own heaven or hell with them every moment, for these are but the results of mental and emotional states of belief system and programs which the individual has created because of their own misaligned attitudes. There is no other way. It is that plain and simple. I will now define that which I called a force field, just as I did many years ago to the Chilas of the 1950s. And I would like to ask those who wish to take this to a new zenith of their being and purpose, that you revisit and review that which has been placed into motion by the founder of this progressive force field called the Elemental Grace Alliance. I also wish to use this alliance as an example of that which can be instigated and achieved through the correct engagements of drawing forth the appropriate energies or force fields of the various directors, ascended masters, Elohim, Chohan, archangels, and angelic host. Although this definition or understanding herein given is representative of this alliance and its proposal for execution and implementation, they are certainly not limited to this. For indeed the same force fields are created at all levels of creation, and Helios and Vesta created just such a force field when their plan was created and executed through the 7 mighty Elohim and 7 majestic Eloah, while applying the 7 steps of precipitation for the creation of earth itself. For indeed this law is the foundation stone for all creation itself. A force field then, by definition, herein the understanding for earth purposes, is a consciously magnetized focus of energy created by a person or a group of persons or beings for the objective of benevolent service to a particular principle, facet, function, condition, or area of life, and ultimately to the entire earth itself. In the case of the group activity, the directors, ascended masters, archangels, Elohim, and Eloah have been elected to overlight the group in cooperation with the group, first designs within the minds of its disciples and members the particular activity to which the group service is to be consecrated. Therefore, the actual design of the force field should be brought into a visual activity, as in an image or picture, so that all may be sure to direct their energies into the same activity. It is essential that this picture remain the same at all meetings once it has been drawn forth, so that it will grow and expand its blessings to the group into the entire declared parameters of the particular principle, facet, function, condition, or area of life. The use of the image created for the transmission for the release of the pressures of the Cascadia zone herein described by Peter is a perfect example of this process. By continual contemplation and by constant directing of the qualities and radiance of overlighting energies desired within the force field, this can be made to grow in and with intensity to a point where it is a potent force for good in the particular principle, facet, function, condition, or area of life. Once a person or group can become more masterful in use of such force fields, then it can be employed throughout the atmosphere of the whole of the earth itself. A force field is in constant motion, and through it will pour the limitless gifts of the divine being to whom it is dedicated to, as it is strengthened and expanded upon at each group meeting. I call it a force field due to its pressure of radiance that cannot be disturbed, dissolved, diminished, or changed by any dark or lower vibrational thought forms, depending upon the levels of radiance of those who create it. So let us continue with this identification so as to create from it, and to remain within the natural protection of love substance, that it is created from. Remember, do not misunderstand the word force, for it can be likened to the word power. The power of God is not destructive, and only enhances the quality of love and never allows for any dissolution of anything that is divine love or divine truth. It will, however, move aside, to whatever degree necessary, anything that is not of love and truth, and therefore always remaining within the laws of life as to God's creation. The word force comes into the same radiant substance as the word power. Human definitions of both power and force are not created in love, and so in truth have no reference or validity here, indeed no reality in Christ's consciousness. A force field, a controlled, constructive, harmonious, positive sphere of influence, does exactly what its name implies, influences the generation of similar qualities of faith, hope, charity, harmony, spiritual aspiration in those it connects to and is in contact with. The power of contagion, so aptly demonstrated in the transference of fear and panic through mass hysteria, is equally applicable in the transference of God's quality and nature. There really is no difference between a sphere of influence and a conscious thought form and a force field apart from the truth or truth that it is founded within. I use herewith the word force field to convey the picture of a battery of constructively and positively charged energy, made up of the combined auras of groups of conscious disciples, gathered together in cooperative service to mankind in one place. The force field is made up of the fusion and amalgamation of energies gathered together by all in attendance. The unascended humans, the elementals, angel divas, angelic host and builders of form. These combined with the decrees, visualizations, invocations, songs and general application of the group of disciples who wish to form a radiating center for God's blessing in their particular principle, facet, function, condition, or area of life amplify the essences available for dissemination. In exactly the same manner that the individual sphere of influence is a combination of the energies released through the contributing centers of thought, feeling, and action, so is the corporate force field of the group composed of the consciousness and application of every member of that group. A force field renders several services. First, it is a magnetic center which draws the presence of the ascended masters, angelic beings and all divine intelligence, who desire always to find an open door through which to pour their radiation and blessing to mankind. As the pollen and flowers draws the bees, so does such a consciously created force field draw and magnetize the presence of beings to whom it is dedicated and for whom it was formed. Secondly, it forms a concentrate of consciously qualified God energy, which is funneled down from the octaves of light, and which provides a spiritual nourishment to all those who enter the force field, beyond the natural radiation ordinarily present in the sphere in which the individuals dwell. Thirdly, it forms a radiating center of these same God qualities into the atmosphere and locality, just as beloved Archangel Zadkiel explained about his temple of light over Cuba, in which it has been built. Each center, physical or ethereal, acts as a physical sun itself, sending forth light, warmth, nourishment, and God gifts into the city, town, or village, or indeed country where it has been created, and where it is sustained by rhythmic attention to its presence by divine intelligence. Lastly, it provides an ever-present conductor which the guardian intelligence of this universe may use, upon a moment's notice, to flash forth protection, purification, balance, healing, or harmony when the need arises. Thus much time is saved which would ordinarily have to be employed in creating such a funnel through which to give a blessing and protection in times of crisis. A force field takes different forms according to the particular types of disciples who are developing such a magnetic and radiating center. Sometimes the group director or leader, whom we'll refer to from now on as the attractor fields, to eliminate any of the misperceptions of focused task by the members of the group. In such creations as Christ counsels, for example, one chooses a design in the form which shall be built by the dedicated members or disciples, elementals, devas, angelic hosts, and builders of form, around the thought form of that group attractor field. Sometimes, when such a one does not take the initiative, the force field assumes the pattern of etheric focus, which previously was active in that locality. Oftentimes it is only a vague, blurred outline and looks like a vapor cloud in the atmosphere over the locality. Of course, the more perfect the mental design of the forced field, the more it is shared by the conscious creative centers of the disciples, the more valuable and productive it is to the hierarchy. When I originally perceived that my beloved colleagues, El Morya and Saint Germain, were going to endeavor to again present certain truth to interested people upon the planet Earth, I conceived the idea of developing, outside of the Ascended Master retreats, certain specialized foci of harmoniously qualified energy, which could be used for the expansion of the nature of God through the physical, emotional, mental, and etheric worlds of mankind. These foci would depend primarily upon the interest sustained, the enthusiasm and inspiration of those who desire to contribute to the impersonal welfare of humanity and the planet. In the Ascended Master's octave, all beings, while fully mastering all energy entrusted to them by God, choose to specialize in the magnetizing, qualifying, expanding, and sustaining of some specific service by which the race as a whole might benefit. It was thought worthy of the time and energy to expend to try to encourage and inspire such an interest in groups of unascended beings, and thus the anticipation came to accelerate the progress of the entire evolution in, through, and around the earth. Each Ascended Master retreat is dedicated to the expansion of some such divine blessing. In some, with patience, harmony, constancy, rhythm, and love, unascended beings will create and sustain some divine blessing, which is a power that can be evoked at will by any and all other interested life streams in times of crisis. But to date, even though it has worked to varying degrees, now we need to expand the potentialities of this original conception. A force field usually takes on the form or pattern of the actual activity which a group of individuals desires to magnetize and radiate forth for the impersonal blessing of all life. I emphasize this force field is as powerful as the interest, enthusiasm, faith, and constancy of the endeavor of its component parts, the disciples of unascended beings. A force field will take on the shape or form of the service to be rendered, without the conscious use of the mental faculties of its members. But this form becomes more powerful, more clearly cut out of the universal light, and more enduring if the mental faculties of the attractor feels and the disciples help to sustain it in a certain definite pattern. If the pattern is constantly changing, according to the whim of the group attractor or educating principle, it is more ephemeral, and the responsibility for its sustenance lies primarily with the invisible builders of form. If, however, the principal attractor and disciples work together to create and sustain a particular force field, energizing it with and by their own lives through visualization, song, and decree, it gradually becomes more distinct, powerful, and efficacious in the physical, emotional, mental, and etheric worlds, wherein the greatest requirements for assistance is presently be called for. In the early ages, these individuals and their particular groups of dedicated life streams worked always in the privacy of the great temples of the sacred fire, and the amount of spiritual wealth that infiltrated that mass mind in those ages was determined both by the development and nature of the conductor and the strength and vitality of the force fields which were voluntarily created by the individuals who stood around such as one. This acted both as a magnetic field to draw the truth in the presence of the Master, and as a radiating center through dedicated life streams who were prepared to carry that instruction to the people. So many examples on both sides of the spheres of influence could be mentioned here, but I am sure that you could create your own lists. In the previous golden ages, these force fields were well known to the priests and priestesses who officiated in the various temples dedicated to certain specific god qualities, that is, protection, healing, etc. The mass of the people often made pilgrimages to such foci of specialized blessings and benedictions, bathing in the full gathered momentum already established there by those dedicated to these service of magnetizing, sustaining, and radiating their gifts of life for the impersonal blessings of all mankind on earth. Again, as we enter the gates of the new seventh golden age of freedom, we are endeavoring to stimulate the desire within the hearts of the few once again, to so establish such force fields. Thus, each group becomes a radiating center of certain God virtues, also learning the power of concentration and impersonal service. Mankind, in mass, suffer from many limitations, but the range of possible service is unlimited. Usually in the unascended state, one individually strongly impressed by a desire to help his fellow man will catch a glimpse of one particular service and, in truth, through the power of influence, inspiration of gentle and unimposing degrees of truth, gather around him or her own self others who are interested in a similar project. These force fields are like beautiful flowers upon the surface of Mother Gaia. In time, all disciples of these radiating centers will know what specialized activities are required to magnetize at certain points upon the Earth's surface, and they, in turn, can and will ask for the assistance of such already established force fields to assist them in other particular local areas of crisis. The purpose of the establishment of such force fields is not to exploit the personality, nor the efficacy of any individual or group, but to so magnetize and sustain certain God qualities so that they are always available free of charge for the use of all, not just those who can pay for such privilege. It is so that the ascended host, who offer all their momentum of perfection to anyone, absolutely free and without encumbrance, and the universal progress that results is an act of such selfless service, I wish to once again establish my transmission flame classes upon these principles, which were originally instigated at my humble suggestion, so that the individual force fields might magnetize into their momentums the already gathered cosmic momentums of the Ascended Master retreats. This is done primarily through the inbreathing of the substance of the flame and virtue of the retreat. Then, the sincere and selfless disciples, using the magnetizing center of their force field, will expand these virtues into their localities through the expansion and in of their inner breath. Thus, unascended beings can learn and discover a new experience to work with and expand the service of the Ascended Master retreats, thus being of benefit to all of mankind. I have asked Peter to change the font of the last paragraph for a very good reason, and without further elaboration, shall leave it there for your own investigation and appraisal to decipher and discern what is being presented here, for those open and wise enough to act upon. But what I will say is that one of the greatest misalignments of previously formed groups has been the emphasis placed upon individual personalities and the importance of financial status and focus. In the new radiating centers, based on the development of and through the greater understanding and implementation of the 7 steps of precipitation, such focus shall no longer play a part. No priorities will be deemed acceptable for the discrimination towards those who can or cannot partake due to financial remunerations. The new radiating center shall not become personal financially motivated businesses as a sum to date of which they remain very attached to. These old ways are conditions and limitations and are not based within the truth of God. They are not part of the new cosmic consciousness and the elevated status of the new golden age of freedom. There can be no conditions or limitations placed upon anyone who is guided by Christ or the Holy Spirit to join and unite with such groups, or truly desire to be a part of the new force fields of these anticipated new radiating centers, only to be turned away due to their inability to pay certain sums of money. These conditions are boundaries that continue to sustain old thought forms and programs of lack and trust, faith, abundance, and well-being. These things only inhibit and suppress the raising of vibrational frequencies of the group and its members, and disciples and their potentialities, and certainly does not promote unconditional and divine love. The bridge to friendship cannot be fraught with any type of condition or limitation. In saying this, however, we are very well pleased with the sincere interest in those old group endeavors to date and the kindly cooperation with it by so many individuals across the face of this sweet earth. These present force fields in time can be made permanent through some very simple changes in the fundamental outlines and foundation principles, and may indeed remain long after the original group director and his or her group have ascended into the realm where we abide. I recommend most strongly, then, the necessity for examining the motive behind any such establishment of existing or proposed force fields, as well as recognizing the need for absolute unity, cooperation, constancy, freedom of endeavor, and true loving desire to impersonally help the race in its uphill climb back to its God estate. The new radiating center shall not be about one person, but about the impersonalization of the entire group of disciples. Although a particular group director may begin by offering their time and energy to promote, organize, and administer to such centers, but this is only foreseen as a short-term introduction rather than a long-term arrangement. The projection of the consciousness of the disciples in the new radiation centers does not neutralize the activities performed by their physical bodies, which are actually breathing the flame from the Master's ethereal retreat into and out of their bodies. It rather increases the capacity of each such a one to be a conductor of the light and power of that retreat through the new radiating center into their local orbit and thus in its appropriate timeline around the whole world. If you have not yet decided upon the types and qualities of your group and individualized and personal service, I strongly recommend that you soon do so. I foresee that the Elemental Grace Alliance may assist in these areas as they become available for wider interest, if other enterprises prove unacceptable or unresourceful. Regardless, your I Am presence will lead you toward the right attractor or educator, no matter what your direction if you heartily engage them. The purpose of this new endeavor is to bring to mankind the law of life, the truth which mankind in applying might weave into his own energies, thus regulating harmoniously all appearances in this world, becoming master of him or herself, and as such a master of self. Each such one will then be a contributing factor to the light of the world. Graded radiation is not understood by individuals who provoke or scratch at the capacities of other life streams to draw and condense certain qualities and gifts of the Godhead. However, it must be understood by at least a few, to begin, in order to form a proper nucleus for the magnetizing the greatest amount of the law which is applicable to the conditions which govern the evolution at a given moment, that the magnetic field, which is the sphere of influence or aura of every life stream, is a powerful factor in determining the grants by the cosmic law of more than ordinary release of instruction into the lower atmosphere of Earth. The discipline and preparation of the individual units who choose to offer their energies as such a magnetic field will determine how much of the law which we have at our release can be infiltrated through the consciousness of the receiving channels, and then in turn sent forth through the messengers, including the written word, to the people. All people are no more ready to hear the deeper truth of life today than they were at the time of Jesus, or of Buddha, or of Krishna, nor are they more ready to act as magnetic fields to draw that powerful concentrated energy, nor to take responsibility through their own I Am presence within a group dedicated to such a selfless and arduous task. That was until now. Time and cosmic law is seen to that. When this is understood by a group of individuals, and I am enabled, through limited karma of those who choose to avail themselves to create a permanent force field, that is, a transmission center or physical retreat, a Christ Council or a light radiance community, I can in good conscience release the activities of the sacred fire which, if applied and drawn through the energies of those participating, will be all the proof that is required of the efficacy, effectiveness, value, and proficiency of the practical application of the law. Those incorporating the truth given in the energies of their own body will then be well prepared to carry that truth into the world of form. This was our original design, and although we have deviated over time due to the commotion of screaming free wills, we can now see new potential arising very quickly through the concentrated efforts of those more advanced way-showers. We now recognize there are many who are now ready, willing, and able in both receiving and operating their energies and divine qualities to hold a harmonious sphere of influence long enough for the presence of the Master to convey not only the word, but the feeling, and allowing it to enter the consciousness of the disciples of that group, to make a workable and practical pattern whereby the miracles and marvels will become fact. The creation of a spiritual force field for radiating centers such as we had on Atlantis and on Lemuria becomes the obligation of every member of such a loving community, and the sustaining of that force field without a flicker of the vibratory action of discord or inharmony becomes the responsibility and obligation of each member through the mastery and control of his or her own energies, while he or she remains a part of such a living organism. If, as has been said through the years, indestructible, incorruptible, and untouchable harmony could be maintained through the component parts that make up that force field, we would have then a proper conductor of energy, and into the world of these centers, these communities would flow the sacred fire, with the applicable conscious knowledge, by which all conditions could be handled as we handle them in the inner realms, by light and by love. The beloved ladies of heaven, beloved Mary, beloved Kuan Yin, beloved Nada and Portia, beloved Venus, Meta, Magda, Amethyst, Faith, the mothers of the white and pink roses, and so many more are eagerly seeking opportunity to bring forth some of the laws on spiritual love and healing. It is one of the greatest services that could be rendered to mankind today, in the capacity of the life stream of a member of one of the radiating centers. To connect within these energies already qualified within the healing temples is merely dependent upon their control of feelings. As my center and focus of light is directly concerned with the feeling world, I shall endeavor in every way at my command that is possible to assist you individually. Then, in your collective groups, when you come to draw the power of the sacred fire through the worded expression and sit consciously at the feet of the Master, If you will help us with these force fields, say for an hour or so prior to our entrance, we will have then energy voluntarily emitted from your own bodies, like a great open lotus through which the Master Presence can direct a permanent gift for the blessing of all life as well as for yourselves. As the energies expand, the time and preparations will decrease, for the radiation will become so commanding within the center that our presence will be a permanent sight for all to see. Within the radiating centers, besides the study, practice, and development of procedures and the drawing forth of the spiritual law, we must have practical levels of application made available to us. That is, a particular principle, facet, function, condition, or area of life, or proposals as are outlined within this Elemental Grace Alliance, where the law is put into action. These must be identified by the disciples of the group. Therefore, I am hoping that somewhere someone will receive the understanding behind our endeavors now and know that, in order to draw forth instruction that has not been given since the last Golden Age, and that it shall require the cooperation of dedicated groups. Perhaps one member of the group is qualified to draw the grace, other qualified to conduct the feelings, and all qualified by the giving of their individualized impersonal life energy in the creating of a qualified force field, one which is not only a magnetizing center for truth and the laws of life that have never yet manifested upon earth beyond single identities from time to time, but which may be a radiating center for the qualities of the being or beings who invest their impersonal life energy while initiating the masses further into cosmic consciousness. The priceless quality of life and freedom of spirit is not yet understood by unascended beings, apart from a few more dedicated souls. Know that the love, light, and life within your own precious hearts is exquisite and priceless. There is no man or woman who can hold or sustain as such the will of God, when the will of the great individual source causes it to withdraw due to its unbalanced nature. However, life, which belongs to a God-free being, every electron of which has been qualified with some dynamic God quality, and which can be invested in cosmic service, by which millions upon a planet and countless trillions within a universe may be blessed, benefited, raised, and redeemed, cannot be idly invested in a handful of individuals, except insofar as they become radiating centers, and double and triple the investment in the work we, the Masters of Love and Light, engage in with them. Every dispensation that has closed the door between the ascended Master Octave and the well-intentioned human was closed because the investment from the Master was not balanced by work fulfilled below, and it has nothing to do with personal favor. This is the impersonal, universal law of life. The Christian dispensation, which was functioned in blessing life for 2,000 years, lived on the vital energies of Jesus, in whose work which he pressed into the 3 short years of his conscious ministry. After his passing, it lived on with the magnetic force field drawn by Mary, his mother, the disciples, and the apostles, which during the 30 years she and they remained after his ascension, was stored in the etheric substance of the lower atmosphere of earth. It was then easily accessible to the Christians up to and through the 4th century after his physical presence had ascended. That is why the early Christians were so vitalized with the power of light. The sustaining of the Christian dispensation, making possible the radiation vitalizing it since that time, has been due to the few who, beyond the 4th century mark, were able to individually and in small communities pierce into the higher octaves, connect with the presence of Jesus, and through themselves paying the balance for the Christians who followed the teachings set forth to the best of their abilities. In every activity, you have your advanced thinkers and risk-takers for community advancement. You have the workers who support societal living. You have your conscious disciples, aspirants, and chelas, all willing to sacrifice self. And then you have those who, without conscience, expect life to support them while not working or contributing anything to that life. Those who do not consciously promote God's love, we say one day this will become law upon Mother Earth. There will be those who, by the very proximity to the light, will be transformed by the length of the dispensation, as well as the amount of instruction placed into the substance of the earth, is the written and spoken word, which will remain as a heritage and guide for the people of the future. All now are dependent upon the force fields that are to be carried by dedicated, consecrated, selfless men and women, willing to bring the imbalances of life for the release. Dear hearts, I know that I have gone beyond the scheduled time for discourse, but I am sure that you will, as I do, deem this subject of the utmost importance. The world and its people require health, peace, illumination, financial freedom, faith in God, liberation from the many woes that spring from conscious or unconscious allegiance to the shadow world. I am therefore sending out a clarion call for any or all those who know themselves to be the way-showers of the no golden age. The time has arrived to establish a new cosmic consciousness upon the earth, and I mean upon the earth, not within the etheric atmospheres of earth, not within the mental planes or even the emotional planes of expression, but deep within the physical domains, which shall include a well-balanced mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual countenance, just as this elemental grace alliance is proposing and exemplifying. Therein we will together light up, magnify, demonstrate, and epitomize the force fields of earth through such radiating centers or temples of the sacred fire. All large activities have a small beginning, from the embryo to the seed idea of a planet, a universe, or a galaxy. Just as this elemental grace alliance has sprung up from a simple thought, how will you respond to its proposal herein, dear soul? We who abide within the inner realms await your acceptance to this call, and more so, wait to see what actions you will make toward these new potentials. In the endeavor to bring the consciousness of the Holy Spirit into active radiation through the energy of the individual life stream, I shall again and again stress the great need which arises from the life imprisoned in the shadows, for the comfort which comes alone from the presence of God. Comfort is not the negative condemnation of imperfect patterns of thought, feeling, and action, but it is the positive, kindly, encouraging, enlightening consciousness conveyed by thought, word, and feeling, by which the individual may self-consciously cooperate with the irrefutable and impersonal laws of love, harmony, purity, and perfection, whose causative centers will yield in effects only peace. Comfort, like every other quality of the Godhead, is interpreted by each man and woman according to their place upon the path. To some it means no more than to lie in bed of ease, freed from the necessity and responsibility of sustaining the body's life. To another it is embodied in the presence of a loved one. To still another, an occupation of delight to the natural talent of the soul for the essence of comfort received. The mystic law of the universe works upon the principle that the self-conscious intelligence must give of itself the first impulse, carrying the vibrations of the quality that he or she desires on the return current to receive. A smile begets a smile, and a frown a frown. A man or woman must be a friend to have a friend. He or she must give up one breath to receive another. It is, therefore, my expressed and deep heartfelt desire to help you, individually, to comprehend the peace which you can enjoy when you become a comforting flame, presence to life. For then will you experience the active return of comfort through every externalized form. The invisible ethers and the great beings who have foregone the glories of the higher spheres, to remain the comforting presence by which mankind can sustain their life and progress in a world whose aura is so heavenly charged with shadow that it would not be possible even for the elemental kingdom to sustain a physical garment through which the life flame might find expression, were it not for their presence in this universe. When you call to your great I Am presence, and to me, the Maha Chohan, for the feeling and desire to be comfort to life, you will find open within the realms of your own consciousness a new attitude toward the life around you, and that which has seemed a battle for survival will become a joy each day free of the old human consciousness, and thus externalizing through your creations your comfort in life. I am the Maha Chohan, and I give my humble gratitude to each of you here for this opportunity to share the needs of the people of Earth in this new golden age. Just one last thing. No one reading or listening to these pages does not already have an ascended master sponsor already waiting upon your full conscious commitment, cooperation, and covenant to agree to your part within the new radiating centers of God's love substance. I, in all my love, power, wisdom, and light, have already overlighted these sponsorships between all of you. We know who you are, so know that it is not a matter of are you qualified or not. It is simply you, now ready to make your commitment to the tasks being asked of you again through these discourses. The answer is yours, not God's, yours and yours alone. If you accept, then it shall be the Holy Spirit's comfort flame, me, that will lead you. I am that comfort flame that loves and nurtures you. In love and light I adorn you with my comfort eternally. And so it is.